The story you're about to hear will probably leave you thinking a lot, because it might make you reconsider many of the beliefs we have, our customs, our fears, and common sense. Because in my case, we lived through a real nightmare, even more so because my baby was in danger. We live in the West Zone, more precisely in La Reja, and what I want to tell you started when my daughter was just 2 months old. And as the days, weeks, and months went by, everything kept getting worse until it reached an unbearable level. We ended up making deals with healers who scammed us, going to sanctuaries to ask for help, and finally visiting a cemetery where something unique and unrepeatable happened. Something you won't be able to believe. At that time, we were renting a very large country house with a pretty old building, but the rent was really affordable, so it made up for it in that way. It all started, at least that's the most vivid memory I have of those first events. One evening when we were in the garden, my sister, my baby and I sat down together, and what happened was very strange. At one point we saw our dog, who was almost at the entrance gate, staring at a fixed point, nervous, alert, and he wouldn't move no matter how much we called him. The thing was, since it was practically nighttime, my sister went to get him so we could all go inside the house. And it was there, at that moment, while we were walking toward the front door, that we passed through an area that was a bit dark. Right near this gate I was telling you about a moment ago, it was only about 2 or 3 meters, nothing more. But something incredible happened. My little girl suddenly started crying in a really desperate way. I want to be clear about something. I didn't feel anything at all. It was only my baby who started crying, as if something had happened to her. And that's exactly what happened. Because when we got inside and with better lighting, I tried to calm her down while I checked her, and I noticed something that still chills me to remember today. Her skin was very, very fair, and we could clearly see that on her left cheek she had the mark of a little hand. It was so clear that there was no doubt it was as if someone had slapped her and the hand was left as a witness. My sister and I exchanged shocked looks. Meanwhile, my daughter kept crying, desperate, until finally, after a few minutes, I was able to calm her down. My husband came over to see what was going on, and he also saw this mark. That night, 3 of us witnessed something unexplainable, but it was clearly right in front of us. However, we didn't do anything. We were left with questions, and life went on. But within a few weeks, things started to get a bit more complicated. What happened with my baby didn't happen again, luckily, but we did start experiencing different situations inside the house. The lights would turn on and off completely. The bulbs would burn out in a matter of days. It was totally illogical. And something incredible was realizing that different objects and even furniture would move on their own. Some a little more, others less, but they would move. And I remember one night in particular when we practically ran out of the house. We were eating in the kitchen, which gave us a clear view of the living and dining rooms. Hearing a very strange noise alone was both incredible and terrifying. But when we looked toward the living room, we saw a reg. It turned out to be one of my long white bambula skirts, moving completely on its own between the couches, spinning non-stop as if it were inside a whirlwind. None of us went near it. We were surprised and terrified because there was no explanation at all. Just like that, without wasting any time, we got up, went outside, got in the car, and went to sleep at my sister's house. We lived with similar situations for months that were unbearable, but we didn't have many options. We were just waiting to finish our own house, which was under construction, until finally, a month before the rental contract ended, we managed to move out of there. And logically, with the expectation that finally everything would calm down. A brand new house, untouched by others, was clearly the first step to peace of mind. But you know what? These ideas were completely wrong. By then, my daughter was 1 year old. We moved on March 31, 2011, and although our life in this new house started out peacefully, as the weeks went by, it gradually began to change. Mainly, I mentioned that my relationship with my husband became irreparably worse and led to our separation. But shortly before that, Julieta, my little girl, who was 1.5 years old, started to show very strange behavior. With constant discomfort, and after taking her to 3 pediatricians who simply didn't help her, I ended up going to a healer, and I got there out of desperation when I realized that Julie was getting worse every day. And do you know what happened? It turned out that she had the much questioned and dangerous goat's foot curse. Maybe many people think it doesn't exist, but I can vouch today that it's real. This healer, unlike all the doctors, was able to cure her after 7 continuous days, and she returned to normal. But one question remained. Until then, we didn't know why she got pata cabra, since it's a curse. But over time, we started to piece together everything that had been happening until we arrived at the possible answer, which in fact is impressive. Months went by with my husband, we were separated, and even though we didn't end things on good terms, my house was relatively peaceful. You heard noises occasionally. Did anything ever feel unusual? But overall, and compared to everything we had experienced before, this was nothing. Until, at the age of 3, Julieta started to show a very curious behavior again. Pay close attention here, this is key. She would wake up every morning at exactly 3 a.m. saying she wanted to pee. I would take her to the bathroom and she couldn't go. It was like the urge just went away. But considering that at that time she was getting out of diapers, it was maybe understandable because she was starting to understand certain sensations in her body. Added to that, of course, was the separation, which obviously affected her, even though we tried to make sure she didn't suffer at all. But the reality is that during those episodes at 3 she would wake up wanting to pee. It wasn't as simple as I imagined. It was connected to something much deeper, more complex, more terrifying than any of you could imagine. Let me clarify that her doctor saw her several times to rule out a urinary infection or cystitis, and everything came back normal. Julie was fine from the perspective of traditional medicine, of course, because something was happening without us seeing it or noticing it. Thematically, it was. I remember once going out to the garden with my oldest son and little girl. We sat outside because it was really hot, and something incredible happened.
We went outside with the chubby one, and my little girl said to me, "Mom, look inside." I looked inside, I swear. The chairs that were on the table moved. There was a little black armchair that must have moved by itself about a meter, all the way to the kitchen fridge. We began to pray, repeating what I'd learned. "This is my house, leave. Nothing here belongs to you." A lot happens. That's when the ordeal starts, but the real ordeal. For this, I started looking for healers, people who do spiritual work, who could come to the house to cleanse it, to do something, I don't know. Fraudulent people came through this house and into our lives. Frauds. Because all they did was ruin us financially, because they asked for a lot of money to do this job or that job. Out of everything that was done, nothing worked. Not a single thing. It was like things would calm down for a while and then come back, until one day it came back and never left. Well, when things calmed down a bit, I was left alone in this house with my little girl. I was getting her bath ready, so I went from the bathroom to what would be the living room of the house. She was playing on the couch with some dolls. I said, "Let's go take a bath." Oh my God, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. I looked at her like this. When she stands up, a giant black shadow rises right next to her.
The only thing I could do at that moment was grab her and run to my sister's house just a few blocks away. My fear was overwhelming. We had experienced noises, shadows, and even my daughter being slapped in the other house. It was starting up in that place and we didn't know why. The worst part was I didn't know how to control it or protect my children. The only thing I could think of was to ask Gauchito Gil, but I felt the need to do it in a more direct, more concrete way. So I coordinated with my ex-husband, and together we drove his car to Corrientes to ask and make a promise in person, because of everything we were going through. We needed his help to have peace. When we came back, at least, it felt like everything was peaceful, but my sister said otherwise. The house sitter during those 4 days said it was impossible to stay there overnight. The lights would turn on by themselves. There were banging noises. The stove burner turned on several times without anyone touching it, and he just couldn't take it. Shortly after we came back, Julia started waking up at 3 a.m. again, and most of the time with that strange feeling of wanting to pee, but she couldn't. That's when an odyssey began, a new odyssey, visiting doctors, specialists, and even a child psychologist to find out what problem she was having. Absolutely no one could help her. It was something desperate and it made me really anxious. Can you imagine? Finally, and purely by chance, I came across a man who healed through Gauchitogil, an honest person with an impressive calling to help others. One morning at his house, I told him everything I saw. We'd lived this way for years, and I told him everything, even the small, seemingly pointless things. He didn't say a single word until I finished, and he was very direct. He wouldn't tell me anything because acting first was most important. He asked me to buy white candles and a teddy bear. He told me to go alone to La Reja cemetery the next day and buy flowers before entering. Recite some prayers asking for permission and then only enter the cemetery. He didn't tell me what I had to do because, according to him, at that moment, once inside, I would know. And look, I know all of this seems like something out of a movie. I get why you feel that way since you didn't experience it, but I swear that's exactly what happened as I'm telling you.
I take the bus all the way to the gate and walk part of the way. At that point I bought the stuffed animal, the flowers, the candles, everything. I had coins, some 50-cent coins. I go in through the main door, just like the healer told me. I toss the coins, say the prayer, ask for permission, and start walking. Here at the gate, when you enter the cemetery, it's right on a corner, like a mausoleum, a very, very large niche for nuns. It's like a little black castle. The only thing I remember is that I got there and turned. After that, I don't remember how it was, or where I went, or anything. I just know that when I opened my eyes, I was in front of a very old grave. I started cleaning and found a picture of a little girl. I acted entirely on instinct, placing the teddy bear, candles, flowers, and everything else. I don't know how long I was there because I don't remember. There's no way I could remember. The only thing I know is that I got up and left. I left.
I went straight to this man's place when I arrived, and only then did he tell me what he knew, what he had seen, and it was very shocking. The day he welcomed me, that first day, he saw an entity that was accompanying me and immediately realized what it was about. He said that in the country house we rented and lived in briefly, a 7-year-old girl died horribly. And that when we arrived with such a little baby, with a pure soul, that girl, or rather her soul, decided to manifest itself through her, because she desperately needed to be helped. And now, having done all this at the cemetery, she was at peace because we had helped her transcend. I didn't just leave it at that because my sister and I tried to find out as much as possible about this house. I wanted to clear up my doubts. Was what this man told me true, or was he maybe just a fraud? It was shocking. A neighbor from the area confirmed my worst fears. In that house indeed lived a family where the father was an extremely violent man. He not only abused his daughter, but for a long time it was proven that he tortured her by not allowing her to eat. And also, pay attention to this, he wouldn't let her urinate for long hours. Do you remember that my daughter used to wake up with that same feeling every night at 3 in the morning? Now everything made a little more sense. Finally, that little girl dies. The cause was unknown, at least this woman didn't know it, but of course everything pointed to her father being responsible. To finish, let me share something curious that happened a few weeks later. I wanted to go to the cemetery from time to time to visit this girl's grave, to leave her flowers, and to show her that at least someone was there for her. But the healer made it clear, telling me no since I couldn't find her grave. That girl had already transcended. That answer was totally ridiculous to me. I'm being completely honest when I say it, but sometime later I made a decision that once again hit me like a bucket of cold water.
Me stubborn? Well, 15 or 20 days went by. I swear I went back to the cemetery. I did exactly the same thing. I couldn't find the grave. By this point, my family was already telling me, okay, that's enough. Don't go anymore. Let him rest in peace. What if something attaches itself to Julie again? What do you mean, what happened? You know how this works. It's already been 10 years. And I usually go to the cemetery and walk all over it from end to end, corner to corner, lengthwise, widthwise, everywhere. I can't find her at the grave. Is this something you believe or not?
As always, thank you very much for making it to the end. I hope you enjoyed this great experience. Remember that you can send your voice messages to the WhatsApp number that's on the screen right now, and I'll also leave all the important information in a pinned comment. Remember that there's a great promotion going on in the store and it's valid until the 9th, so don't miss it. And of course, I also want to thank all the channel members who have joined recently. Thank you all so much. It's time to say goodbye. See you in a few days. Sending a big hug to everyone.